Hello, my name is Sarah Sturgeon. I'm a student at Georgetown College taking my rank 1 for teacher leader and an endorsement in ESL. This video is a teacher collaboration for a project that I'm doing on a student from Cane Ridge Elementary. For the purpose of this video, the student's name will be Justin, and I'm here with his 3rd grade teacher, and we're going to discuss his lesson that he received a couple of weeks ago and any modifications that I might have given her according to our ESL descriptors, Can Do Descriptors from WIDA. So we're going to start this video off for EDU 580 ESL teaching methods and techniques, and we will be assessing the teaching methods given to my CLD student. So your student is Justin. Do you know anything about Justin, his background? Have you been able to talk with his parents?
Justin is one of my 3rd grade students. He's 9 years old, and he moved here from Chihuahua, Mexico. His parents and his older and younger brothers remained in Mexico, and he's actually moved here and is living with his aunt and uncle and a couple cousins. So I'm not really sure why they chose to make that move, but I'm assuming it's for educational purposes. I have talked with his aunt and uncle a little bit. One of the cousins in the home speaks a pretty good amount of English, so we typically converse through her about homework and some basic things that have popped up. I can't remember what else you asked me.
Just the background, and that's great.
Okay.
I think it's really important as a classroom teacher to make sure that you connect with your CLD students on a home level.
Yes.
Of course, we want to do that with all of our students, but more especially with him because we have to know all about his history to help
Yes.
him in the best way that we can, and communication is one of those barriers that are usually more difficult to break through. So I'm glad that you have someone in home to converse with. You say aunt and uncle are his primary caregivers.
Yes. And he does read and write in Spanish on probably like a 2nd grade level.
Okay.
But that's it right now.
And so right now, is there anyone that you're having translate these meetings with, or how are you exactly communicating with them? Are aunt and uncle English speaking?
They are a little bit, or I've been talking on the phone with the cousin, and she relays messages to the aunt and uncle.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome. So as long as they're getting that information, they know what's going on, that's a really important factor with our student. Okay, so I'm glad that you know his background. I think that you guys are going to be great friends throughout this school year. Have you found any issues so far with teaching him and having him in class? I know that he is, a newcomer, so he doesn't really know any English. I noticed that you were doing a lot of one-on-one with him, but as far as issues, have you come across anything?
Yeah, pretty much any type of independent work where most of my students can read a basic set of directions and go off and complete some things. He pretty much, if it doesn't have a picture with it, he doesn't know where to begin. Even if he knows the mathematics behind it, he doesn't necessarily know where to start. So I do a lot of one-on-one and pull him over. He has trouble with center time or times when they're supposed to be independent work or group work. He likes to copy his neighbors a lot, which, obviously we have to start somewhere, but maybe a little bit more than I would like. And yeah, sometimes behaviorally, if he's really lost and I'm not doing a very good job of doing one-on-one with him, he can get a little distracted.
A little bored.
A little bored.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times, like you mentioned, using the pictures is a great idea to really hone in on, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Look at this visual, even if you don't understand the words. This is going to show you what you're supposed to be doing and your expectations. And as far as copying, I know that is a difficult thing to kind of modify for someone and make sure that they're not doing that. But something that I've seen before are sentence frames, and so whenever he is doing an assignment or taking notes with the rest of the class, instead of having him write the entire script, which can be very overwhelming for a CLD student, try just doing sentence frames with little blanks in the middle of them. So he's focusing on one important vocabulary word, and that's all he has to write, instead of writing other words that maybe aren't as important for him at this point in time.
That would be a good idea.
Awesome. All right. So, as a newcomer, like I said, he doesn't know any English, and so he was given the WAPT assessment, which is just an initial assessment. He will not get this again throughout his stay in the ESL program. In January, I believe he'll be able to get the WIDA actual assessment, which will put him a little bit more specifically in the program and what he needs to be using and what modifications that he will receive. So right now with his WAPT assessment, he scored a 1 across the board, which means that he doesn't know anything. So you've been doing a great job helping him out so far with what he needs. And he also did take the MAP test. We did get him in enough time to get that. And he did okay on it, just very, very low, 3rd grader. So we'll be working to boost all of those things up. His scores were, for his MAP, I think he got a 150 in math, a 148 in reading, and a 153 in language usage, which is, like you said, probably 2nd grade level, if we did the right translations for all of those things. So I wanted to discuss the lesson that you did, and it was over graphing, and I loved the journals. They're so awesome, and the fact that you did centers, which kind of got him introduced to a normalcy of classroom management and kind of just going with the flow with his peers and learning how to do everything else. I did notice that, like you said, his behavior was a little off in the beginning while you were describing everything.
Yep.
So something that I would modify would be to give him a job and let him be your teacher helper and try to set up the room for everyone else. So those little things that you might not notice that he doesn't know the vocabulary word for, like scissors or pencils or paper. If you said, Justin, will you go get 5 pencils for table 5 and 6 markers for table 3, those kind of things, just to give him something to do so he's not sitting and wondering, oh my gosh, I don't know what she's saying, but it's not my time to do anything yet. So maybe that would help him a little bit in that. So after you told everyone about the centers, you guys did a fluency fitness, which was the beginning of your center, and I thought that was awesome.
He loves that time of day.
It is so good to get their body moving and like just that spiral review to help him kind of go over what he learned the day before. And I don't know if you knew this or not, but that is total physical response, TPR. And so that's a great factor in really assisting him with his modification and meeting him at his level. So you did a great job on that. Yes, so you did the spiral review, fluency fitness, that was great, went over the centers. The next thing that I saw you do was go over the vocabulary words, those frequency words that you're going to be using throughout the whole unit. And I love that you had little cards to hold up and show everyone. It had a little picture of it and everything. And I think we actually have it in the journal right here. We can show this. The vocabulary words and the pictures to go along with them. I think those were fabulous. However, they were already posted in the journal because you had been going over them since the beginning of the unit. But the cards were put away after you went over them and reviewed them, and I thought maybe it would be nice to have them posted up by Justin so that he's not constantly having to like look back through his journal and kind of fidget some more, and he might not even want his friends to know that he has to look back to look at them to begin with. So if they were posted up close to him, that way he could kind of just slightly look over at them and get that assistance. I thought that would be a really nice modification for him. So after the vocabulary and all that stuff, you got started with your centers.
Yes.
And so could you just explain the centers for me? What is the journal center and what do they do there?
With the journal center, there's a journal for each standard that we're working on at that time, and there's always a page that they cut out and put in their journal, and then they can work in groups or in pairs to complete the questions. So on this day, they were getting data from picture graphs, and then they were using the data from the picture graph to in turn make a bar graph. So they had questions and they had to read the data, and then over here he started making his bar graph, and I guess I'll show it. He did have a little bit of trouble understanding that he was supposed to color his graph based on a scale. So he was trying to color, for example, 12 boxes for how many students were reading books, and he didn't have 12 boxes because it was supposed to be on a scale of 2. So that was a little bit difficult.
Okay.
But they work in their groups to look at the graph and answer the questions.
Right. I think this is a great center for him because he's really getting that visual aid. And I noticed that after you dispersed into centers that you came over and you read him the directions again just to make sure he knew what it was saying and kind of made sure that you were touching the words as you said them, and that was really great. You're doing all of those cues that he needs. And while we're talking about that, I just wanted to go over his PSP with you. I think I forgot to do that at the beginning before I started talking about his lesson. But the PSP, I think, did you receive this before school started?
He came in at the very beginning, so a couple days into school, I received it, yes.
Okay. So all of these checks are just telling you what assessment accommodations and instructional accommodations he gets. And a lot of those you're already doing in the classroom. A reader, simplified language, those are things that I've already seen in your lessons. So you're doing a great job of meeting those assessment accommodations. The use of foreign language dictionary, he did have an iPad with him, but I noticed he didn't really touch it. Have you seen him use that in the classroom before?
A little bit. If there's smaller chunks of things that he's comfortable typing in, he will use it. But sometimes, everything is overwhelming.
So really the problem with that is, knowing how to even spell the word in English.
And he's got a second grade spelling of even Spanish words.
Right.
So.
Yeah, so that's definitely going to be difficult. And I think with more time, he'll be able to use this modification better for his personal use, but right now I don't think that you should be too worried about it. And he did receive extended time. I noticed that he was still working on his journal after everyone was already cleaning up, and I think that's good to let him go ahead and finish something so that he doesn't feel like everything is always incomplete, because that's really important for his structure. During his instructional accommodations, he receives simplified language, link instruction to prior knowledge, which was the spiral review, the fluency fitness that you were doing. All of these are already being reached, and I think that's great. The visuals and organizers, the content language objectives. So we were talking about the Common Core standards that are actually in the journal. I think that's fantastic. So it reiterates the fact that I can draw a picture graph and bar graph and solve different problems using the data in the graphs. So not only does he have it right here in his journal to continue to look at if he needs to remind himself of what he's doing, but I saw it on the board as well. So you've got that posted everywhere for him to see and remind himself of what he's supposed to be working on. Build background and teach vocabulary. Like I said, if we could just post those up next to him, I think that might help him out a little bit more. Model language and task completion, you're doing a great job. And then the scaffolded responses. So you're meeting all of these accommodations that he needs in the classroom. And I think that you're doing a great job. Now, we were talking about the bar graph, and you said that he did do this one part wrong, where he tried to color in all 12 of them. Hi. A video. Yeah. We're going to pause it real quick.